The second Duet Night Abyss beta is here, and I'm here to share some of the core features of the game, like the fast-paced hybrid combat, no RNG gearing system, a wide variety of unique playable characters, and the multi-weapon loadout system, where you can freely swap between range and melee weapons anytime. The gacha is also free-to-play friendly and guarantees you the limited character without having to worry about the 50-50 for the first time around. Do you want to know something even crazier? You can even craft the highest rarity 5-star limited weapons for each character in the game for free. Does that sound interesting enough to you? Well, come learn more about the sponsored game preview. First, let's go over the combat and movement. Movement in Duet Night Abyss might feel a little bit slow if you don't master the Helix sleep system. However, they did make some changes where some pets can help you sprint easier. You can perform a Helix sleep by walking forward and then hitting your crouch key and then jump key right after. You can spam Helix sleeps indefinitely, so try to master this move or technique ASAP. If you crouch and aim your camera up in the sky, you can perform a Mega Helix sleep, which launches you vertically high in the sky. Then you can finally follow it up with the basic melee attack to launch yourself forward to a great distance. There are a lot of movement and secret text to explore, but let's keep it simple for now. The combat is very easy to pick up with the dual weapon system. First, you have your left mouse button, which is your melee attacks. Once your combo gauge reaches A to S rank, you can then hold your left mouse button down for a special heavy attack. Then you have your R&B, your right mouse button, to shoot or attack with your secondary weapon. Each character has their own unique passives. Their E skill and their Q ultimates are also worth exploring and trying out. Certain characters even have different movement-based skills depending on their skills that will let you travel great distances or even perhaps freely fly through the map. Then you have your support pet skill that you can use as a Z skill that will sometimes help you with your movement, or amplify your damage for your team or current member. Back on the topic of free-to-play friendly, the character gacha itself is also favors free-to-play players because it guarantees you the limited character 100%. No more gambling for 50-50 on the first rate up of the character pulled. However, if you want dupes, you still have to go through the 50-50. They also got the beginner banner where you're guaranteed the character in 40 pulls, which is pretty sweet. Moving on to the next part, I do want to introduce the 7 new playable characters in this second closed beta, which are Lady Niffle, Kezo, Zilyu, Fantagio, Daphne, Outsider, and Rhythm. Lady Niffle is a character that excels in skill damage. She's quite strong in terms of AoE DPS and can deal both Lumino and Umbro damage with her skills. She's also got good grouping capabilities, which is useful for the new patch because they did increase the monster density in all the new dungeons. Next we have Kezo, a Lumino based damage dealer that can enter a unique stance during his ult. During his stance, he is able to swing at enemies using his special weapon. Activating the ult a second time will launch all of the weapons scattered all over the ground at the enemy directly ahead. His skill strikes enemies in front of him, and then he can increase his range attack speed or melee attack speed depending on the stance. Zilyu is a very tricky character to use as she has many different ults depending on what charms you have activated with your E skill. One of my more favorite characters in this update because she can summon a huge thunder breathing dragon in combat. Next up we have Fantagio. When I first saw this guy in the trailer, I knew I had to play him. He can transform into a Dark Knight Beast armor character with special skills and the basic attack animations. A very badass looking character. Then we have Daphne, a cute support character that can buff and heal. She's worth having in a team as an assister type of character to always keep up your team at all times, especially later on when you're surrounded by a lot of enemies, or simply need some healing from devastating boss fights. Outsider is a stealth character. If you play through the story, he's going to be a familiar reoccurring face. His skills will put you into a stealth stance and throw daggers out on the field. Upon using his ultimates, he then retracts all of those daggers and puts you out of the stealth stance. You then sacrifice your health, which is converted to shield, and it increases your attack speed with a berserker-like state. All healing from here on out is converted to shield instead of health, a very high risk, high reward type of character. Lastly, we have Rhythm, the character you can zoom throughout the map with using her grappling skills. Her skill lunges her forward, dealing damage to everyone and every enemy in the way. Her ult also deals damage to all the enemies in the vicinity and increases her movement speed. And that should sum up all the new characters. Duet Knight Abyss currently has 22 playable characters and you can only control one during combat. There is no quick swapping mechanics during fights. Instead, you can summon 2 other companions that will fight alongside with you in combat. You will have to customize your team and members beforehand, and to do so, you can go to the character menu, click on the tactical backpack on the top of the screen, and then from here on out, click on the character sigil you want to have in your party. Give them one weapon, either be melee or ranged weapon, then drag their sigil into the wheel above of the screen. Now you can freely press or hold T for the tactical backpack and click on the character you just customized to summon them in combat. Assemble your waifus or husbandos and mow down bosses or missions together. One of the things I like about the second closed beta is that they've also improved the combat experience. As I mentioned earlier, you can swap freely between 2 weapons easily. You're also able to mix and match weapon types between all of your characters, which brings us to another awesome feature of the game, and that is you're able to farm and craft any 5-star limited melee or ranged weapons in the game for free, which is insanely wild, right? If you're a type of that gets like impatient, you could always try rolling for the 5-star limited weapon rate up banner that is 100% drop rate, but if you're free to play and you're not much of a swiper, you can just farm the game and get all the weapons for free. You can uncap the weapons, just keep farming it over and over, and you can even like farm it together with like multiplayer friends, which is pretty sick in my opinion. Alright, to craft these weapons, you will have to challenge any of the 4 endgame weekly bosses or do the covert commissions. After clearing the bosses or defeating it, there's a chance that you will get a special order that will have a chance to get the weapon recipe that you're looking for. Here's a quick preview of all the bosses so far. First, we have Sybil, the chief of the Hyperborean Empire of the 13th Legion. She's one of the first bosses introduced to the game and is someone you'll encounter very much early on. I enjoyed fighting her because of her moveset and the bullet hell attacks she does every now and then. Next up, we have Crystallophile, who is the Grim Reaper of Glavium. This boss has mechanics where you have to break multiple destructible body parts so that it will expose the core, and then you can deal significant damage to the boss. There are also other hidden mechanics involved in this boss fight, so go find out. Then we have the Eclosioner, one of my favorite boss battles of the previous test because it's a multi-part boss fight where you can fly high in the sky and you have to break her wings apart and knock her down from the air. A very challenging fight early on, especially if you skip doing the mechanics. Lastly, we have a brand new boss, the Warden of the Inferno, a very powerful foe that can incinerate your team members. She also has a grab move mechanic that hurts a lot, so make sure you don't take it head on and dodge that mechanic. This is just one of my new favorite boss in this update because she looks so awesome and her moves are so flashy. Other than the craftable weapons obtained from these bosses, I believe it's also worth mentioning that you can also craft cosmetics and other kinds of gears in the game. To respect your time, the gearing system in this game isn't time consuming as other games, because there is no RNG involved when it comes to upgrading your demon wedges. Demon wedge is the stuff you put on your characters to get stronger. Every stat is fixed and all you gotta do is mix and match the right pieces for your build. No more spending countless hours trying to roll both double crit rate and crit damage on one piece. Everything is fixed, no worries, you're all good to go. You can come up with unique builds or even snowball ones because you can feed the same type of demon wedge dupes to amplify the effects even further with the same dupe. So let's, for example, you have an attack percent demon wedge, you could further amplify this one if you get the same kind of demon wedge. But there is a limit, so you can't snowball too much, right? You can also easily farm these demon wedges using no stamina, which is pretty cool, right? Through the commissions board in the game. Now, if you want to be able to craft the special legendary ones, it becomes a 2-step process where you have to find an order manual and then clear a stage using that specific order manual that you just farmed. Then you'll have a chance to get the legendary demon wedge recipe that you can craft now. It's also worth noting that certain demon wedges can change the attack type of your weapon. For example, a great sword can have a different attack animation if you equip a specific demon wedge to it. Duet Knight Abyss spoils players with a wide range of customization in terms of dyeable weapons, weapon skins, craftable head, face, waist, and back accessories. There are a lot to choose from and you can mix and match everything. You even have this green cape that looks a bit familiar? game. Anyway, my favorite part of it all is being able to dye both melee and ranged weapons, mainly because I prefer my characters matching with their weapons, or at least their outfits matching with the weapon type, right? No more mismatching weapon colors, thank goodness. The new patch also introduced new genie mons, which are pets that follow and chill over your shoulder while you adventure. The new pet system adds a little bit of depth to the current system that's already available in the game because they have both active and passive skills, so you have to make sure you're using the right pet depending on which scenario or stage or character you're using. The endgame loot mostly involves farming recipes to craft legendary weapons, demon wedges, and cosmetics. The nice thing about it is some of the materials that you need to farm or some of the demon wedges are farmable without using any stamina at all, so that should provide a lot of replayability for players in the future. We also have a lot of various commissions to choose from that will keep players busy and farming. Then we also have 4 weekly boss battles that you can farm for weapons and all that stuff. Aside from those, the game does offer roguelite mode called Mystic Maze, which have varying level difficulties ranging from level 30 to 80. A new endgame mode was introduced in the second closed beta called Immersive Theater. In this mode, players must create 2 different teams to clear both the left and the right side of each stage. There will be multiple rooms and their respective side with a boss at the end of the run. So it's essential to bring a good team with a good sustain to survive all of the rooms. There are also different modes ranging from easy to hard. First, we have the classic repertoire, which has 7 acts to it. That's a lot of stages. Then the medium difficulty featured as repertoire has 3 acts, and then lastly we have the immortal repertoire, which you can challenge with 1 team, and the monsters here are insanely powerful and hard. Phew, that was a lot to digest. I hope you enjoyed my Duet Night Abyss second closed beta preview, and I hope to see you guys on the release or the next upcoming beta. I highly recommend sharing your feedback with the developers after you've played the game. They've shown strong commitment to listening and implementing numerous changes and even special programs based on the player feedback from the previous test. I'll be holding my full review until the game is officially launched and I've experienced the endgame to the fullest. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. This is Steparu, out.